All right, so this week for the Hot 3, we've got TV shows, guys.
Ooh, good one.
Hot 3 TV shows.
Hot 3 TV shows.
This is all-time favorites.
All-time favorites. I'm not talking about something that you like casually watch because we know there's good ones like that. And if you want to put them in there, you can. I'm not saying you can't. But like there's just different levels, right? So like I hold like a show that's like a hardcore drama that like you're like super invested in, different than like The Office, which I'm also equally invested in, but I could watch that just in the background.
Like Game of Thrones would probably be
okay.
like Everybody Loves Raymond.
yeah. Although Everybody Loves Raymond is also funny.
It is funny.
And you can watch it all the time.
Syndication's great. I love reruns.
But yeah, so that's kind of the distinction. And again, that doesn't mean if The Office is absolutely your favorite show of all time, by all means, put it in there. But I just think that there's, in my eyes, there's like a difference.
Yeah, that's fair enough.
So with that, we're going to start with Kenny.
Oh, me.
Wait.
What are your Hot 3 TV shows?
I gotta go back to my Hot 3 here.
I want to know.
Number 3. This might surprise some folks. I'm gonna go Schitt's Creek.
Oh,
Wow.
Schitt's Creek was absolute hilarity for me from beginning to end.
that actually is a really good show.
Some of these other shows that are in my list are a little more serious, but like I'm a big comedy fan. Dan Levy, Eugene Levy, Catherine O'Hara, and Annie Murphy was
just the comedy in that show is so spot on.
Annie Murphy is beautiful and super talented, and was just like my favorite part of that show. Just everything that she did, just the E.U. David, like it's just a great character overall. But just again, just like slobber knocker fun, like stupid fun, beginning to end.
Yeah.
This was a hard to try and narrow down 3.
It was tough.
I mean, it could have been a lot of shows,
tough,
but
yeah.
I'll throw Schitt's Creek in at number 3.
Number 2.
Number 2. And number 2, I guess for me is I kind of have 1 and 2. It's almost like 1A and 1B because Breaking Bad I have it at number 2. Breaking Bad I think is maybe the highest rated series of all time. Like if you look at IMDb and Rotten Tomatoes and these, not a bad episode in the whole series. Maybe the Fly. I think that was the low. I think that was the lowest rated episode in the series, and it still scored in the high 7s.
Yeah.
I mean, every episode there was like rated in the 9s or better. Just such a unique storytelling.
Every time Jess called people bitch,
and then you have the spinoff with Better Call Saul too. So it kind of all adds to like this universe,
which was
like
different but good,
like
and also still felt like it was in that same vein.
Universe type of deal. Like it's just like the whole story.
And then El Camino or whatever
with the spinoff
the movie
sequel. I mean, just again the whole story there was just so good, and it's one of those that really makes you almost question like your own moral judgment and thinking about things like how far would you go for your family, even if things were maybe illegal.
How far would you go for your family, and at what point do they get out of control?
Right? Yeah. Like at what point does the spiral start where you're just all of a sudden you're a drug lord?
This is so good.
So yeah, Breaking Bad. Bryan Cranston in that just fantastic. I think
masterclass.
Who was it that Anthony Hopkins wrote him a letter and said that it was the absolute best acting that he's ever seen in anything ever. And like Sir Anthony Hopkins is kind of a big name.
Yeah.
And then number 1 for me is always Dexter. God, I love Dexter.
I already wrote it in for you.
Dexter's my favorite of all time. Again, another one that just like clouds your moral judgment, and I mean you're almost you're kind of empathizing with a serial killer, essentially. You're like he's the rooting interest in the show. You're I want him to,
but he's fighting bad guys.
He is. I mean, it's vigilante justice, right?
Yeah.
So he's killing bad guys, taking them off the street.
But what if you get an innocent?
But again, it's like, what's that spiral? Well, and I mean, look, Dexter had a code. He was pretty thorough in making sure that he didn't kill anybody that didn't deserve it, didn't have it coming. And just the fact that like he worked at the police department and I mean, you're kind of thinking like
The most successful serial killers do, you know?
What a sneaky way. The only thing that I think is a downside to Dexter is like the science behind like blood spatter. Like if you start really looking into that, like it's kind of like pseudoscience.
Oh yeah, it's been kind of like it doesn't really get used in cases anymore because they're like
it's not really a thing.
Yeah.
Like
It does get used a lot in cases nowadays, but a good lawyer will always be able to argue out of it because they're like
because it is really kind of pseudoscience. But
Yeah.
but in the show, it makes it so real because you got Dexter with all his strings, and he's going through and like mapping out like where there was a lethal blow to the head here, and like helping the police solve crimes, and just like thinking like a serial killer helps them catch serial killers. Just everything about it was good.
I think you're absolutely as crazy as a serial killer, so I can see why this is your favorite show.
Plus, to me, there's a lot of shows out there. Like if you watch like Seinfeld, like every couple episodes, Seinfeld had like a new girlfriend. Like Dexter, to me, had the best girlfriends. Like as the series went on, like every
Only
season
Kenny
kinda
would
had-
judge a series by the girlfriends.
No, I'm just saying like they because you got to know like it was deeper than like Seinfeld, where it's like he had a girl for like 3 episodes and then there's a new girl the next week, and like you get to know these characters and they become integral to the storyline, and just some fantastic acting all the way around. So Dexter's my number 1 of all time.
Nice. Bone, hot 3.
Ooh, all right. Well, I have to narrow down some of my list. I'm gonna go number 3, True Detective season 1. Probably
he
hands
broke it
down.
down to. I get what you're saying because it's like an anthology series, so it's
a complete wrap up within one season. So like
Yeah.
through and through, one season of a show, best like detective story ever made in my eyes. It was just fantastic. Great acting. Woody Harrelson and Matthew McConaughey.
Love Woody.
It was really good. Really good.
That is a good show.
Number 2, I'm Breaking Bad is in there as well, so I'll put Breaking Bad at number 2. It could be number 1. Kind of just echo everything Kenny already talked about, just through and through. As what was it, like 9 seasons? I don't know what it was.
I think it was only 5.
Was
right?
it just 5? Okay,
yeah.
perfect. But through and
Those
through,
were long episodes. Though.
through and through, yeah. As a series, I watched it with my dad, like just growing up. So it was like however many years it took to like watch it through. It was just like we
The
waited
good old days.
week to week to watch the show. So
By the time you get to the end of the show, you forget the beginning.
yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
But I've went back and watched quite a few episodes, and yeah, just the best. Number 1, this may be a wild card, I think, but Band of Brothers on HBO.
Band of Brothers was good.
Man,
I haven't seen that, so I have
Band
to
of
put that on my
Brothers
list.
is.
I've watched a
so
lot of TV.
Good. Follows Easy Company in World War II, and it just their story.
Schwimmer.
David Schwimmer. There's a lot of just like
random guys.
Yeah, just random people kind of show up throughout the
Bunch
show.
of Jags.
Yeah. they're like big name Jags.
Big name
Yeah.
Jags. but like David
But they
Schwimmer.
kind of play like small parts.
Yeah,
Yeah.
David Schwimmer, Jag.
His character was really good. You hated him in it, but his character was really good. But yeah, Band of Brothers, just as World War II, just historical type of show. It's Spielberg, I'm pretty sure, directed all that, and Tom Hanks was involved.
Yeah.
Just really good.
Really well done.
They had a lot of the veterans do their. They kind of interviewed them all, the guys who were this whole show is about. So they had them like at the end.
That was I thought one of the
and-
coolest parts was like the interviews with those guys, like just kind of talk because it's like these were the real guys,
Yeah.
and then they're being portrayed on screen by
All
the
their
actors.
nicknames, all their stories, all the
Yeah.
nuances, all the things, and just the crazy things that happened during.
This sounds
the war,
like it's right
and
up
what
my
they
alley,
did.
like the
Oh,
type
you
of
would
show I
love it. You would
watch.
absolutely
Yeah.
love
Yeah,
it. And
it
it's
was
so
really good.
so well done.
Nice.
Lieutenant Spears, man. Oh my goodness, just that guy's unbelievable. So
I don't
Band-
think I've
Band of
ever heard
Brothers-
Zach gush like this,
Band of
Bone
Brothers
gush like
number
this. So
one.
I'm gonna have to.
Band of Brothers is really, really good.
Yeah, very good.
I'm gonna have to watch that. And so for me, for my hot 3, number 3, you guys have already talked about it. Breaking Bad made the hot 3 for all of us. So I'll skip over that one a little bit. It's been talked about enough. Number 2, Boardwalk Empire.
Nice.
Huge fan of this show. Specifically, I think Kenny, I know you watched this. I think it was the first 2 seasons before before one of the main characters was no longer there.
Yes.
The whole series is good, but those first 2 seasons were unreal.
I enjoyed the whole series thoroughly. Yeah.
The only thing that I didn't, and it wasn't that I didn't like it. I just think it didn't. I don't think it was necessary. It kind of made it a little weird to wrap things up. Was the time jump before the last season was like, we follow everything they do, and then all of a sudden there's this time jump of several
I think
years.
they were trying to like stay consistent with like historical events.
Yeah, I mean, I know, but it's just,
prohibition and all that.
but yeah, I mean, it wrapped up really well. There was a good ending. It was just good. It was a good series.
A lot of really good, like
Huge names in
A-list actors in
Yeah.
that.
Huge names.
That phenomenal.
Steve Buscemi,
show.
I don't know has ever been better than that series.
No, because he plays so. I mean, that guy's range is actually incredible.
Yeah.
For a guy that looks kind of goofy and acts goofy in a lot of his roles.
Well, I mean, you go from playing what was he, Nucky? What was his last name?
Nucky Thompson.
Thompson in Boardwalk Empire to playing the guy on
In Deeds.
Crazy-
Deeds. That was
Crazy Eyes.
Crazy Eyes on Deeds. Yeah, like that's the same guy. Like
Pepperoni and Oreo.
That was,
Or mushroom and Oreo.
that was on TV.
And he plays the minor role in Big Daddy, where he's like, you end this conversation now, I'll get you a cheeseburger, and he's like,
And
look, he fell asleep.
And in Con Air.
Yeah, I mean,
Tremendous range.
But all of those things, like I said, I don't think he's ever been better than Boardwalk Empire.
Yeah, super good.
And then finally, my number one on my hot three is Peaky Blinders.
Nice.
Just a phenomenal show, and I really enjoy like a good period piece, like where the costumes and everything that go along with it takes you to a whole different time, and they, I think, nailed it down. All the sets, all of the costumes. They even kept in, like, they didn't water down some of the accents. They kept them real thick, and you just kind of had to get
Sometimes
used to
it was
it.
hard to understand. Yeah.
Tom Hardy's character, you couldn't understand at all.
Yeah.
You really had to pay attention. We had to turn subtitles on to know what Tom Hardy's character was saying. So I mean, just fantastic. And Thomas Shelby was always one step ahead of everybody.
Yeah.
If not two or three. So just a phenomenal show.
Ultimate antagonist.
Yeah, great cast.
Protagonist, sorry.
Protagonist, yeah.
Yeah, great show. Peaky was cool too because it was in Britain. Like we don't. There's not like a lot of British history TV shows like that we grew up with.
Yeah. Well, and now it's crazy too, because now with Oppenheimer, like obviously, like Cillian Murphy's like a household name,
Huge star.
and he was a fairly big star before that.
He's been in a lot of stuff. Like I didn't realize how many things he was in.
Right, that's what I was
until
gonna say.
watched Peaky.
He was a fairly big star before that, but I feel like Peaky Blinders took his career to a whole other level. And he is another one who's just a phenomenal actor.
Yeah.
Like whoever he's playing, you believe he is that person.
Great performances.
So yeah, just a great show all around. But yeah, those are my hot three.
You really got an aesthetic there between Peaky and Boardwalk and I mean the period piece thing.
Yeah, I really enjoy when a
Even
show.
Breaking Bad is kind of dark like that. Like
Yeah, I just enjoy my top two specifically. Like I said, I enjoy when they take you to like a different time, and specifically like a historical time. Like maybe the story itself isn't true, but the time period and everything that was going on, like that all was actually happening, and they reference historical events and things like that. Like that's my kind of show.
Oh
So,
yeah, like even down to like him being down like whatever he got ordained with like OBE, like the British officers and the titles and things like. Just very, very accurate of the culture of the time.
Yep. So, guys, any honorable mentions that you had?
Oh my God, honorable mentions.
I'll list off mine real quick. Rings of Power, which is a newer one, fantastic. Game of Thrones,
Great show.
both Game of Thrones. The Last Kingdom, Yeah.
Son of Uhtred.
Vikings, Deadwood, Sons of Anarchy, Black Sails, Mad Men, Oz,
Men,
The Wire,
Oz, The
Sopranos.
Wire, yeah.
Yeah, just so many good TV shows.
Have
very
either of you
good.
ever seen the show The Killing?
No.
Oh, it's a good show.
Was that on Fox?
I'm unsure what it's on. I can't think of the actor. He was in Altered Carbon. He was in I think he was in a season of House of Cards.
House of Cards is on my list. It's a long show.
Yeah, it is. But
House of Cards got goofed
it was
up
a good detective,
because of
good killing.
what's his
detective
face.
show. Yeah, he kind of ruined that with his weird activities.
Yeah.
Walking Dead?
So many good shows. Walking Dead. Walking Dead, especially like the first 7 seasons.
Sure.
I mean,
Yeah, I need to go back.
I never finished it.
I'll be honest with Walking Dead. It just got to be so long that it was like a chore to keep up with it. So now that it's finally. It's done, right? Like it's the original Walking Dead is done. I know there's all the spin-offs, but the original Walking Dead I want to go back and watch and enjoy and watch the whole thing. So
yeah, my other honorable mention would be The Office. I can watch The Office all the time. So good. Yeah. It's just you just couldn't make it. I know they're trying to like do a remake of it today somehow, but you couldn't make it that way.
No, you get so sucked into that show too, like to where it's so sneaky, you don't even know it's happening, and you watch like 15 episodes, and then all of a sudden you're like, I watched so much of this. These characters,
6 hours,
and these characters are so great. Like they just slowly build them all up. Like I mean, each character only has a few minutes of screen time per episode, outside of like the top 3, and it's somehow you fall in love with all of them.
It's funny too, like for the size show that it was when it started, especially even in the early seasons, the like high level like A-list talent that kind of came through for like an episode.
Yep.
Like I think Amy Adams was on a show. Yep. Jennifer Aniston made an appearance. Like just like randomly, I gotta know. Like, and then like Will Ferrell showed up later in the series.
That's things got weird.
James Spader.
Spader
is one of my favorite characters of all time in The Office.
Yeah, and I mean even like Steve Carell. Like honestly, a couple things. One, when he first started that show, he was basically nobody.
Yeah, he was.
You could tell by the hair plugs.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Their look, everybody on this, Christine and I were just talking about this. Everybody in the show, from like seasons 1 and 2 to like seasons 4 and 5, got exponentially better looking. like all as the show started to make money and be successful.
The show itself had better makoup artists and things like that. Yeah,
they brought like a Hollywood team.
Steve Carell replaced his hair
because if you listen to those guys talk, like they filmed that whole series, like and they like did the pilot, and they were like, this probably isn't going to go anywhere.
Yeah,
and then they called him back, and then
and Steve Carell, 40-year-old virgin, is what launched it. Is all of a sudden they were like,
huge.
Wait, this guy broke out with 40-year-old virgin, and he's on this show, and like,
and the funny thing is, like, the show is bigger today, I think, even than when it was on air, because of the streaming and everything. Like everybody has watched it now.
Well, and especially like the younger generations are starting to get like their first office jobs, and they're like, oh, this is it, and this is it,
and that's what's so endearing about it is like. It's hyperbolic, but it is very reminiscent of like an office job, like the stupid things that happen in an office and the way that you pass time and the relationships you form in order to just get through the day.
Yeah. Man, we spent as much time talking about The Office as we did all of these other shows. This should have just been your top 3 episodes of The Office, which we'll get to another time. But listen, that'll do it for Hot 3.